Guys, welcome to the show. Tony Katz today. Arturo Fuente in the house. This is a sun-grown oscuro. Yeah, I'm okay with this. A lot to get to. Cliff Mayer, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, is with us, but the threat, that's the top story. I'm going to bring it to you. Glad you guys are here.
This to me was one of the more shocking figures that I saw. Made me go, wait a minute, hold on 1 second. Whoa, Americans on Trump and Joe's efforts. Musk and Doge should influence government spending and operations. Look at this, 54%. The majority say that he and they should. How about approve of Trump trying to cut staff at government agencies? Again, you get a majority here, 51%. So yeah, Elon Musk might not be that popular, but these cuts and the idea of spending cuts, at least within the federal government and cutting at government agencies, that actually has majority support. I was truly surprised by this, Kate, but
only person, Harry Enton, who's truly surprised by this is the person who works at CNN all day and starts to believe that that's normal. Everybody else wants the cuts. Every American, every single one, save the Kardashians, every day or every week is taking a look at their budget and saying, where can I cut? Do I need all these streaming services? Exactly how many Substacks am I subscribed to? What about what I do with Tony Katz? You don't touch that. You leave that alone. Just got babies to feed. Tony Katz, oh, not as many as Elon, but still, Tony Katz today. What are you doing? 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. Good to be with you. Good to be part of the show. Have you as part of the show. Me, I get to do this thing. Look at me. Look what I get to do. Everybody's taking a look at their budget every day and saying, is this spending worthwhile? Does this make sense? Just not the federal government. The federal government doesn't do this, and the federal government is stunned to learn that people are interested in this. They are shocked to discover that there is gambling in this establishment. We're not. Yet they all want to make this claim, this very odd, very strange, very peculiar claim that Elon Musk is not in any way popular. And I've been trying to make some sense of that, because it doesn't make sense.
And that's part of the reason, Willie, that we've seen this speed, but it has led to this legal chaos. And I guess it also leads to the question a little bit like we were talking about tariffs. At what point does he start getting so much pushback from people around the country, Republicans around the country, elected members around the country, that this is disquieting? We've seen the thing about the town halls. Now, some of that may have been people from outside their own districts. That might not help Democrats very much if they're busing people into these town halls, as some Republicans have said. But it's certainly Republicans that I've spoken to have said, look, there are two areas where if you're cutting parks and if you're cutting anything to do with veterans, then there is real disquiet amongst their Republican constituents. I think Donald Trump's starting to realize that Elon Musk's popularity could be a problem for him going forward. Unpopularity could be a problem for him going forward.
Message.
What unpopularity are you referring to? Am I supposed to believe it because you said it? You also said that the laptop was a hoax. You also said Russia, Russia, Russia. You say a lot of things. You're the people who said Trump's a threat to democracy and the people voted for him. You're the people now telling me this is the worst 45 days in presidential history for the start of any presidency. It's not the way America sees it. You tell me that Trump's speech was mean and vindictive. Trump's speech got huge support. Yet if I listen to people like Representative Jim McGovern,
it was overnight. Meanwhile, their own voters are getting hurt by this administration, and it's radio silence. They can't even be bothered to lift a finger to do a town hall. Where's the outrage over Trump wanting to cut 80,000 jobs at the Department of Veterans Affairs.
It's 70,000 and there's no outrage. Why would we be outraged by this? There's no reason to be outraged. Do we need all those jobs? See, that's the difference, Representative McGovern, Democrat, between you and normal people. You think because it's a government job, it has to stay. We look at it just like we look at all the streaming services we pay for every month, and we say, do we really need this? Because we deal in the real world, and you think it's okay to play around with our money and keep friends employed. With all due respect, Representative McGovern, go to hell. It's our cash. This is what they come with day in and day out. And you wonder, no, you don't. They wonder why they're so disconnected from the voter. But this was not the place I wanted to start. I start with the threat. President Trump speaking very clearly to Hamas. Release all of the hostages now, not later, and immediately return all the dead bodies of the people you murdered, or it is over for you. If you continue to hold hostages, you are dead. This message came after the reporting, we discussed it briefly yesterday, that Trump was in negotiations with Hamas, which is to say he sent an envoy to Qatar to talk to Hamas about a peace deal. Nothing changes about Donald Trump. So we can know two things here. Number one, there is no question in my mind that the Israelis did not know that Joe Biden was doing this. Joe Biden. Joe Biden never did this, that Donald Trump was doing this. No question in my mind, the Israelis had to know. Because if this was done without Israeli approval, he wants the friendship. Trump does. And by the way, so does Netanyahu and so do the Israelis. This would look ugly. Negotiating with terrorists would look very, very ugly. The question is, even if the Israelis knew, well, he's negotiating with terrorists, isn't he? Trump's philosophy has never changed. You can't do anything without a conversation. Now, we're going to get into this with Cliff May of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. He's coming up in a little bit regarding the United States and Ukraine and how Trump handles Russia. But the same rules apply. You can't get anything done unless you talk. And we can prove this by going to the first term and taking a look at his conversations with Kim Jong-un. The visit to North Korea, quite literally crossing over the border, which we should be clear. That was a move. So yeah, let's go for a walk. Let's go to the North Korean side. That's something else. Trump believes in these things because Trump, as a matter of just history, knows that he's never gotten a deal without the conversation. Just never been able to close it without talking. What made the change? I believe what made the change from being in a negotiation to this statement that he put out on Truth Social is that the story became known. I do believe this, that once it was known that he was in these negotiations, he had to change the conversation to something that he had discussed before. All hell's going to break loose. So it wasn't new in that regard. Saying release these people or you are dead. Saying only sick and twisted people hold on to the bodies of dead people, and you are sick and twisted people. It's what he said. It's what he said. So with that, did the knowledge of the conversation with Hamas lead to him making the statement so he could be seen as strong? And the answer is maybe. I want to put my dollars down on probably. But now I want to move forward from this because it's already done. And what happens next? According to the Jerusalem Post, the head of the IDF, General Ayal Zamir is getting ready to return to fighting. He is the IDF chief of staff, as called. We must defeat Hamas. We also are preparing to resume fighting. The hostages are our top priority. I don't know if you're going to get any more hostages. I am amazed that you got what you got. I thought the deal was absolute garbage, but you were able to bring people home, and that is magnificent stuff. And I'm thrilled for Israel. I'm thrilled for the United States. I'm thrilled for the people of Thailand. There are a lot of Thai nationals that were taken. Absolutely thrilled. You may have gotten all you're going to get. It has to be known that there is no actual negotiating with Hamas. And I would state to President Trump that exact statement. I think what he would say to me is, yeah, I know that. I don't think he's a fool by any stretch. I think he is fully aware that you cannot negotiate with terrorists who are true believers. They will never stop. The real pressure must be applied to Iran. More financial and, yes, in bombing raids or whatever else you want to call it. I am not somebody who ascribes to the John McCain theory of bomb Iran, right? That is not who I am. But if the objective is to end the terrorist threat, you have to end the money flow. To end the money flow, you must harm Tehran with such strength and vigor and power that they're afraid to send a nickel. That they may hate those dirty Israelis, as they call them, or dirty Jews, as they call them. But we want to be alive, and so we're not sending any more dollars. And you got to just starve them out. Now, when they starve out, they will do desperate things. And this is where the real, the rational person understands that they're going to do desperate things. And that's going to be bad for hostages who have been there for a year and a half, 500 plus days. You very few people have been through anything in their life close to this. So the statement puts a clock. It puts a clock on the lives of the hostages. It puts a clock on Israel taking Hamas out, because it will be Israel. It won't be the United States. It'll be Israel, and of course the help that the United States gives Israel, and of course the weaponry that Israel buys from the United States. But understand, the clock started. You make a statement like this, and you know it's 24. Doot, 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 doot. That's a terrible impression, Tony. That is a terrible impression. My gosh, you just spend a couple of bucks and try and find something that'll work next time on a countdown. I believe Trump said it because of what was discovered earlier in the day about the negotiation. I believe Trump believes it because it parrots things that were said before. Let all hell break loose. He said that in the White House. So I think it is really a continuation of a conversation that he wanted to bring back up because the negotiations were going on. But there is no negotiation. They have to be destroyed. You free as many hostages as you can, and you have to then destroy Hamas. Did I say that twice? Yeah, because it's that important. That's what has to happen. And I hope it does. And for the people who say to me, what about the children? What about the children? Children are going to be better off when Hamas is gone. They're going to be better off in 20 years when they get out of their head that they're supposed to hate these people, when they actually have an opportunity for a better life, which can't happen with Hamas now, with all those Palestinians who support Hamas in the killing of Israelis and Jews. The clock started. It would seem to me that every delay from Hamas is them actually rearming, and Lord only knows what damage they want to do. Lord only knows what dirty bombs they have access to, or worse. So if you're gearing up to fight, just remember, This is the final fight. You have to end them in this. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. Much better. No more mute. Welcome back. I'm Tony Katz. I'm glad you guys are here, seeing some new faces in the chat room, some old faces in the chat room. And thank you. It's good to see you guys. As you know, when it comes to cigars, I'm not a believer in spending money on lighters. It's fire, people. I mean, it's fire. That's what it is. But I do have a couple of cool pieces, collectibles. So this is from Opus X Society, right there. Arturo Fuente, the military themed lighter, and I have a cutter that matches. So I had purchased one set, which is this very, very cool kind of Spanish mosaic thing going on in yellows and blues, gorgeous. And then this was next to it, and I'm like, yeah, I have to. So I mean, admittedly, that's a fantastic piece right there. Look at that. A little bit of freedom action, solid. Yeah, I know. Need to get. When I don't really put my hands up that much, but don't tell me I have to get my nails done. That's just weird. That's just weird. But it's good to be with you guys. Good to be here. I see your comments there. I turned the audio on, Sarah. I figured out my mistake. Sarah, who runs all our digital, constantly yelling at me and calling me names. And it's just downright rude. Downright rude. And producer Landon says, you should fire her. And I'm like, dude, you don't want to tell her that. She'll go all left eye on you, and she will burn your house down like you're Andre Rison. By the way, Andre Rison references, get that on another radio show. Tony, how come you're not on 150 stations? I don't know. Good Lord. Honestly, what am I even doing? Just do this. Just do this. Let's bring in a couple of thousand people, and we'll just do this. It's enough. Let's just have some fun. We'll get to the music when I'm good and ready. All right, the radio show's coming back, guys. I gotta do this. So Trudeau, as we know, is the tough guy of Canada, and he is trying to figure out what to do regarding the tariffs. The tariffs that were placed on him by the United States. Tony Katz today. So good to be with you. And he's been thinking, he's like, how in the world do I want to handle this? You know what I wonder? This is me doing my impression of Justin Trudeau. You can't tell because I'm not in blackface, as opposed to Justin Trudeau twice, I believe. But he's trying to figure this out. Yeah, it's not cool, Justin. Don't do that. He's trying to figure this out. He's like, I wonder.
What would Brian Boitano do if he was here right now? He'd make a plan and he'd follow through. That's what Brian Boitano do. What would Brian Boitano do if he were here today? I'm sure he'd kick ass or two. That's what Brian Boitano do.
He's not wrong. But Justin Trudeau is no Brian Boitano. But what he has decided is the tariffs remain. When the United States removes all the tariffs, the 25% tariff on all goods across the board, 10% only on Canadian energy. When that happens, well then, at that moment, then the tariffs will come off. The only thing I am amazed by are the people who think that Trudeau is going to just acquiesce. Why would anybody think any of these world leaders would just acquiesce? Because Colombia did? Well, some, I guess, will. But I think it would be more understandable in a trade war conversation to say, you've insulted my people, you've insulted me, I have as much of an ego as anybody else. Let's fight. Sure, it's going to be disastrous, but I've got nothing to lose. I'm already losing, so I've got nothing to lose. And so I think that explains his take, because Pierre Poilievre, who is the conservative, who I hope is the next prime minister of Canada, a smart guy, a capable guy, compared to Trudeau's socialistic freak show. He's in the same boat. We're not going to just cave to the Americans. We're not going to be the 51st state. None of this is happening. Stop being crazy. We are going to be proud of who we are, proud of the nation. We're going to fight the best we can. No one should be surprised by this. That said, you understand that the negotiations are happening as we speak. They desperately want these tariffs gone. They can't win. They cannot win at all a trade war, and they know it. They are fully aware of it. They cannot win a trade war. Now, one of the things that we're hearing about is a delay on some Mexican goods, a delay on those tariffs that fall into the category of the USMCA. Howard Lutnick is the Commerce Secretary.
It's not likely to be just the automakers. I mean, the president is going to decide this today, but he's talking about it. But I think it's likely that it will cover all USMCA compliant goods and services. So that which is part of President Trump's deal with Canada and Mexico are likely to get an exemption from these tariffs now. That this comes from that Canada has done an enormous amount. They've offered us an enormous.
We'll see. I'm Tony Katz. So hold on a second, Jennifer. What does this mean? You should add a couple of fun things to the afternoon show, like bourbon. You tell me what it means, because I will tell you that I'm already. I have so thought about blowing up the show. I have no interest in the same old that everybody else is doing. And I don't think I do a same old. So if you got an idea of fun things, like should there be a whole section of balloon animals? I'm in. All right. I see Cliff May, who is our guest there, but I think he's chewing on something. Are you eating sunflower seeds? Is that what's I'm gonna bring you onto the live stream right now.
No,
Oh, look at that! I killed him.
I've had a
Killed
very
Cliff
busy
May.
morning. This is my late breakfast. You caught me. What can I tell you? But this is breakfast, not even lunch.
Good to see
Busy
you.
day.
It has been a while, sir. How are you? You doing all right?
Good. I'm well under the circumstances. Yes,
Okay.
under the circumstances, reasonably sane.
All right. I see that both of us are dressed in a way that maybe we could run a small cabin for 3 days before we needed to
so
call
funny.
Instacart.
This is so funny because I thought, I
Okay.
really should put on a tie or at least a jacket or see. Here I am, like I'm
You don't
out
have to
bringing
put
some
on a
chopping
tie.
wood,
I'm
and you're
gonna
dressed the
ask you
same
to-
way. It's like you send me a memo. It's really
What I'm
funny.
going to ask you to do, Cliff, is I'm going to ask you to reconnect real quick because you're having a little bit of a connection issue with your sound and with the video. So
I do hear that. Okay, go off and come back on.
yeah,
Close off and come back on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. That's why you test people. That's why it happens. Now, some people, they've got a staff to do this. I have been saying I need to hire a director. That has got to happen. I need a whole production. I just want to do this part. Somebody else could do the other part. They're more talented than me on the other part. That's all I ask for. Simple stuff, man. Simple stuff. I have done interviews with Cliff in the past, so I'm looking forward to this. It's the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, is what it is. So, excuse me. Now I'm the one choking. Good gosh, you would think after all this time I'd be a professional. There he is. All right, how do we think it's going with you, Cliff? I hear you.
I think this is better. No, I think we
Yes.
have better connection. Okay, good.
Mhm. Most definitely. So, if you can, where are you connecting from? Where are you at?
I am just outside Washington, D.C., stone's throw, just over the line into the free state of Maryland.
I know, if you want to call Maryland a free state.
No,
you're
I
really
know.
welcome
I'm joking. I'm joking. Now, Florida is a free state. El Estado Libre de Miami. I've been there recently.
Right. I come to you from the mostly free state of Indiana. So we're
Okay.
feeling pretty good here.
Yes,
so we're about
I
to-
understand. Illinois wants you. Yeah, I've been following all the counties in Illinois who want to defect and are trying to cross over the border, over the kind of Berlin Wall between Illinois and Indiana.
Oh, yes, that wall was built by Pritzker. We'll take them. They just can't vote certain ways. But we're going to connect in a second. I'm going to bring you up in a second. So give me a moment here. That's Cliff May. Stay right there. Stay right there, sir. There he is, doing a heck of a job. Okay, let's do some work on the radios, shall we? So what is actually salvageable? Now, I say that with a little bit of tongue in cheek, because if we're discussing the relationship between the United States and Ukraine, Ukraine needs the relationship. So what is salvageable is what it is Ukraine's willing to do to have that relationship. After the dust up in the Oval, which I will reiterate my position again, that you can argue that Trump could have responded in a myriad of ways, but the idea that the explosion there is his fault because of his reaction is to be completely unaware of the situation. It is to be purposeful in avoiding the fault that exists on Vladimir Zelensky for this insistence on the security apparatus being changed. It is looking at Vice President J.D. Vance and stating, what diplomacy do you speak of? It was the way he coined or utilized a phrase. Even if English isn't his first language, don't even play around in doing that, which was engaging in a lecturing style, which isn't the first time, so much so that we now know that Joe Biden, when he was president, had to yell at Zelensky. Could you be a little more thankful? Could you be a little easier to deal with? Tony Katz today, good to be with you. But the question is, how do you get the United States and Ukraine back on track? Cliff May joins me right now. He is the founder and the president of FDD.org, Foundation for Defense of Democracies, and he writing about these subjects. And Cliff, it's been a while, but it's good to have you back on the show. You're a believer, certainly like I am, it seems, that it is best that Vladimir Putin not get a victory in any way, shape, or form. But it is equal, or I should say it is also valuable, that Ukraine be somebody who's actually interested in trying things, even if they don't like the way it's being tried. So when we start with taking a look at what took place in that Oval Office discussion, yelling, between Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump, did you assess blame, or were you more focused on the problem as a whole?
Yeah, I'm happy to do blame, but I don't think that's terribly productive. I think we need to consider what is the American interest here and how do we pursue the American interest here. And I would agree with what I think you just said, which is it is not in the American interest, has never been, would never be, for Vladimir Putin to conquer and swallow Ukraine, a fledgling democracy whose cardinal sin is that it wants to be part of an American-led free world. I've been following Vladimir Putin for a long time. I think I consider myself an amateur Putinologist. I've been following the Soviet Union and Russia even longer. I went there as a teenager more than half a century ago for the first time. I've been an exchange student there. In fact, I was at Leningrad State University, rah, 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 go Reds, at the same time that Vladimir Putin was studying there. People ask me if I got to know him. All I can tell you is I got drunk on bad vodka with a lot of guys named Vladimir. He sees himself as a czar. He wants to restore the Russian Empire, which became the Soviet Empire. He is in a no-limits partnership with Xi Jinping, the head of the Communist Party, the strongest communist party the world has ever known, which is a threat to us. And he's in a very tight relationship with Tehran, getting drones and missiles and helping Tehran in ways we don't know. And Tehran, what they want to do, they've been very clear about it. They want to exterminate the Israelis and take over the Middle East. So what happened there? Look, Zelensky made a big mistake. He had a very simple mission at that point. The minerals deal had been already negotiated by deputies. Everybody knew what was in it. All he had to do was come in, sign the agreement, shake hands, say thanks, eat lunch, and skedaddle. That's his assignment. He didn't do it. He tried to renegotiate the agreement, get something else, a security guarantee. He tried to do it, as you suggested, in a language that he doesn't speak terribly well. He speaks English like I speak Russian, and he was trying to do it in front of the cameras. There was no way that was not going to fall apart. That was a huge mistake. I don't know who told him to do that. I know he met with people like Senator Chris Murphy, who I think from his tweets said, you should ask for a security agreement guarantee. What would that even mean, a security guarantee? What would it even mean?
I want to get to that in a moment, talking to Cliff May of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, nonpartisan research institute focusing on national security and foreign policy. We're really into two conversations here. So let's take the first part first, which is how America and really Trump supporters view Russia. Because if you ask me, Russia is not only the invading force, Vladimir Putin has absolute expansionist desires and wants. And I find it almost incredible that people want to say otherwise, but there are people who say otherwise. So set me right, set me wrong. Is that Vladimir Putin's desire an expansion of Russian land and power?
100%. That is exactly what he wants. Again, here's a guy who's got more money than he can ever spend. He can and does kill his enemies whenever he wants to with impunity. He has a girlfriend half his age. She's a rhythmic gymnast. I don't know what it means, but it sounds fairly intriguing. So what does he want to do? What's his mission at this point in life in his 70s? Restore the Russian Empire. What does that mean? The Tsar is the emperor, the Caesar of all the Russias. That's the title. What are all the Russias means? It means Russia proper. It means Belarus, White Russia. And it certainly means Ukraine, Little Russia, or frontier, whatever you want to call it. 40 million, 38 million Ukrainians to become Russians. That's why he's stealing Russian children, Ukrainian children, taking them to Russia and brainwashing them that you are not Ukrainians, don't speak Ukrainian, you are Russians. He wants the Russian soldiers, because he can put a bayonet in their back. I'm sorry, the Ukrainian soldiers put a bayonet in their back and say, now we're going west toward the NATO members. So this is what you have to understand about Putin. There are some people think, oh no, he's a Christian. Oh no, he doesn't like LGBTQ and he doesn't like trans. Forget all that. That's not the point about Putin. He believes in a philosophy and an ideology, which I can tell you about. The most important proponent of it is a political philosopher by the name of Alexander Dugin. It's called Eurasianism. And basically what Dugin says, America is the enemy. If you don't understand this, you do not understand Putin.
This really brings us to part two, talking to Cliff May of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, which is, all that is true. Yet we need to be able to get Volodymyr Zelensky to accept the fact that there are no perfect peace deals, because the perfect peace deal that Zelensky wants is U.S. troops keeping Russian troops at bay. I mean, again, the people who are questioning of Zelensky, who make this point, I think have a point. That is what Zelensky desires, true?
Absolutely right. He would like to be a member of NATO. I don't blame him. Who wouldn't want to be a member of NATO? If you're a member of NATO, the Americans are obligated by treaty to defend you, and he's not going to get that. You're absolutely right. We should understand, it's nice to talk about peace. Peace is a wonderful phrase. Here's what we're talking about: a ceasefire, a cessation of hostilities. Putin may want that. Putin is not going to do anything because he loves peace. He wouldn't have invaded with his tanks and his troops on February 24th, 3 years ago, if he wanted peace. He doesn't want peace. He wants conquest. But he may want to pause. And I think Zelensky would be well served with a pause. His troops are tired. There's no question about that. What happens during a ceasefire, during a cessation of hostilities? Two things. One, Putin absolutely reorganizes, tells his generals, you guys screwed up. You told me you'd do this in 10 days. It's 3 years. Give me another plan. At the same time, Ukraine needs to get armed to the teeth so it has the deterrent capability that it didn't have 3 years ago, a time when Biden wouldn't send him lethal weapons. Trump did sell him lethal weapons like javelins. Obama wouldn't sell him lethal weapons. Now, that's what has to happen. How do they pay for that? Most important way, the Europeans should pay for that. And by the way, there's $300 billion of Russian funds confiscated, frozen in Europe, that can be used to pay for that.
And this is what you're writing
beyond that,
about.
the Europeans should pay as well. And then you get a frozen conflict along the lines of control, and you keep it that way for a long time.
This is what you were writing about, that there are $300 billion of frozen Russian assets. Let's utilize that. Let Europe utilize that, who has it frozen, to arm up Ukraine and be more prepared. Is the real question is Europe actually capable? We certainly see that they no longer believe in free speech. We certainly see, for a great number of European nations, through their immigration plans, that they are being quite literally obliterated from the inside. Whether it's a conversation about Germany and this election of the CDU doesn't change their immigration issues. We see this in the United Kingdom. Certainly Italy is standing strong. Poland has always stood strong. So not every European nation is alike in this. But I think the question is, if this should fall to the Europeans, if we go with this philosophy, Europe needs to be the first line of defense. Well, Ukraine needs to be the first line of defense for Ukraine. Then Europe needs to be the backstop. Then we can come in after the fact. Are the Europeans capable of doing it?
They have to put on their big boy pants and find out. They have to do what they have to do. And it's, as you say, it's differential. The Poles are doing what they can. The Estonians. What's that?
And find out. I mean, that's you. I think that's you saying, well, I don't know if they can actually do it or not, but they got to try.
They can write checks. That's a big part of it. They can get there. They can do better than they have done in terms of having militaries that are capable. They're not now, but we're not talking about them fighting. We're talking maybe about the British, the French, some of those having peacekeepers. We know the Finns are now part of NATO. God bless them. They have been very good fighters. Remember, you have a little bit of history here. 1939, the Soviet Union attempted to do to Finland what Putin is attempting to do to Ukraine. The Soviet Union started the Winter War of 1939 to try to drag Finland, kicking and screaming, into the Soviet Empire. The Finns fought like crazy. What happened at the end of it? They lost 11% of their territory. Terrible. They retained their independence. And 2 years ago, what happened? They finally did join NATO.
They had avoided joining NATO because they didn't want to create any further tension with Russia, and then joined because, well, it was the only defensible thing to do. And we talk about expansionism and we talk about Ukraine. There's always been the conversation of the Baltics and whether or not Vladimir Putin sees going in there. As you see it, as you know it, while we still have a few minutes, we talk about this expansionism desire of Putin, who, this KGB agent at heart, who takes it as a personal failing that the Soviet Union failed and wants the reunification of all Mother Russia. I mean, that is who he is. I think we understand the psychology there. The question is, do you think Donald Trump sees it that way? Do you think he understands it, yet is still trying to kind of back end this peace deal so it isn't all on the U.S. economy?
So I'm not entirely sure. I think there are people within his administration, people who are advising him, who do understand. I think there are others who don't, who, again, think of Putin too kindly, let me say. There are others who may think, oh, you know what? If we get friendly with Putin, we can pull him away from China. I'm telling you, that's a fool's errand. That can't happen. As far as the money concerned, I think the minerals deal is a very good idea because it is a way that Zelensky can use untapped natural resources to pay both for the equipment that we have provided and equipment we will need to provide in the future, along with, as I say, frozen Russian funds and checks written by the Germans and the French and others.
That is Cliff May, the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, FDD.org. If you want to get more, FDD.org. Cliff, stay right there. More is coming up. I'm Tony Katz, and this is Tony Katz Today. All right, so we still got you on the live stream, and we were just doing the radio show. So now the radio show is into it's
okay.
Great. The idea that you cannot separate China and Russia is something we've broached here in this discussion. Major Mike Lyons, retired United States Army, has brought up the idea repeatedly on this show of Russia as a vassal state of China, that possibility is very, very real. The way you brought it up makes me wonder, do you think that has already become the reality?
I would frame it slightly differently, Tony. I would say that what you have is what Xi Jinping said to Putin. We now have a no limits partnership. That's their agreement. And Xi Jinping also said, we have a chance, you and me, to do something that hasn't been done in 100 years. And what he means is displace America as the global leader. So what you really have here, and this is something we've been working on from a research point of view, got a monograph FDD is going to put out on this. We have what we've been calling the axis of aggressors. And that's led by Xi Jinping, the communist ruler. And then the next partner is Putin. You also have Ali Khamenei in Tehran, working with both economically, politically, militarily, all that. And of course, Kim Jong-un in North Korea. And beyond that, you have an axis of enablers, Turkey, Qatar especially, increasingly Cuba, Venezuela. And all of them have what in common? They're very different. They want to displace America. They want to make sure that America is never a great power again. They want to displace America. So that's what's and think of it this way too. You've got four key in the axis of aggressors, and you got four key prey for the predators. What are they? Well, there's South Korea, which is chronically threatened, but not imminently threatened because we have 28,000 American troops there, and they've been there since 1953. Zelensky would love to have 28,000 American troops. That's one. Then you have Taiwan. Xi Jinping says, I'm taking Taiwan. It's mine. Get out of the way. I want the Philippines. I want to at least kowtow to me. I want Japan. I want the Pacific, but I'm taking Taiwan. And then you have two countries that are at war at this very minute. One is Ukraine. One is Israel. Okay. And so you have the four predators, for prey. That's how you have to understand what's going on right now. And
Cliff May.
and I'm saying not everybody in the. I think there are debates. There are disagreements and debates between those who, like Mike Waltz and and Marco Rubio, who I think see just as I do, and there are others who are sort of neo-isolationists who think it's none of this is worth the price of salt.
We're going to get to this another day. Cliff May Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, FTD.org. I'll make sure we're always wearing the same type of shirt in the future.
Memos.
Yes, memos will happen. Memos and photo shoots. It's coming. Go to work. Go live your life. Cliff May, I appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I just am overjoyed that I'm not the craziest person in the room. Right? In the end, you got to understand what Russia is. And everything flows from that. So do I think that Trump is wrong for wanting to get a ceasefire? No. This is exactly how he operates. I knew that when I voted for the guy. So being angry at him seems a little bit nutty. Seems like a kooky thing to do. But if he were to actually believe that Russia can be an ally, that would be different. What I'm saying is I don't believe he believes that. I don't. I think there are those in MAGAville who believe it, and I wish they didn't. It's been part of our disagreement. I don't think Trump actually believes it. I think that, people get like weirded out by the transactional nature of the man. And I'm not a transactional guy. I've actually had to teach myself how to do it. I think that knowing that he is transactional is very, very helpful, because you know exactly how he operates and what moves the operation. And you know exactly how that can change if things are not held to a standard. But this point, David, hey, by the way, welcome to the show, man. Good to have you here. That is it. Understanding what China's relationship with Russia is, and that isn't going to get thwarted. It's just not. I got to get back to the radio show, and we'll talk more about this. We will talk more about this. Let us be people who speedily and in our lifetimes put an end to the United Nations and our part in this nonsense. It's a ridiculous organization whose moment has come and gone. It has come and gone. There is no value to this United Nations, to Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary General, to a group of people that live off American largesse and then hate America. I mean, that is exactly, it's not even a debate. Tony Katz today. And then there are things like the United Nations Human Rights Commission, which this story comes from late February. They hosted an interactive dialogue, which would discuss, it was one-sided, of course, discussing a report published by their commissioner, High Commissioner, calling Israel occupied Palestinian territory, and claims that the defense of war against Hamas is a human rights violation. I want to make sure we're all on the same page, because maybe some people I can kind of like move out of my life in a certain way. Israel is Israel. There is no Palestine. There is no Palestinian territory. You want to even argue that there's no Palestinian people, that's okay too. Historically, you've got a great argument there. The UN exists to be an agitator of the United States and lives nothing but for the desire to see Israel gone. They're the enemy. This isn't about whether or not you like Israeli policy. This is about whether or not a nation can exist, and they're saying no. They've got to go. Israel can't exist, but terrorists can? Let's put an end to the idea that we're doing anything other than funding bad people with bad thoughts and bad ideas. People you wouldn't let in your house and wouldn't keep an eye on your kids. Speaking of, did you hear Chuck Todd and Steve Schmidt talking about who they would let take care of their kids? It's so good. The truth about Biden laid bare, well, for them. We discussed it honestly. I'll get to that next. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz Today. Oh, I got to write that down. Biden, Trump, kids, Chuck Todd. All right. I have got a lot to get to. A lot to get to. By the way, so this was the question from John Boy. Why was Putin so happy that Trump won the election? The answer from Kelly, keep your enemies close. By the way, I believe that true. That if you know that Trump is a guy who responds to flattery, flatter. That I think that is 100% it. But the idea, keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. You know what I mean? Glad you do. All right. So here's what's going to go on. We're going to take a break. We're in radio break right now. So we're going to take the break as well. We'll be back in a few minutes and we will continue the show from there. Tell all your friends to get in here. You get in here, you get a free bowl of soup. Hold on, wait. We don't have any soup. How about a foot rub? No, you won't. Wow. This show sucks. I got no soup and no foot rubs. I don't even know. Well, I'll try to be entertaining and informative. Maybe that's enough. Glad you're here. Stick around. More show is coming up. Find everything I do over at TonyKatz.com. I'd appreciate if you would do that, be a part of things over there, and then follow on all the social medias, on the Facebooks and on the Twitters and on the YouTubes and on the Rumbles. Just look for Tony Katz and say, yep, I want to be a part of this. We'll be right back. Keep it here, guys. Guys, good to be with you. Tony Katz, that's me, by the way. Tony Katz today. Radio show joins us in a couple of moments as we get ready. And of course, we get some of the finest comments in the land. Some people just can't keep up with what Trump's doing. Monday, roll back tariffs. Tuesday, reinstate tariffs. Wednesday, roll back tariffs. Thursday, reinstate tariffs. Friday, roll back tariffs. Saturday, golf. Sunday, golf. Yeah, sounds about right. What is your argument now? That the guy is transactional, as we were discussing earlier, and as things change, he changes? There's no question. He believes the tariffs get him what he wants. And if we can't do the tariffs, well, then this way, we'll do them that way. I don't like tariffs. But stop acting like you have any kind of connection to where the reality is. And stop with this idea that somehow there's buyer's remorse. What a very weird argument. Let's talk instead about censure. That story. I've got that for you. I wouldn't let you down there. Oh, hold on. Can you hear that? I left my fan on. Yep. Censure for Congressman Al Green, an absolutely terrible guy.
On this vote, the yeas are 224. The nays are 198, with 2 answering present. The resolution is adopted. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. The House will come to order. The House will come to order. Shh. Will Representative Green present himself to the well?
Representative Green is the guy who decided during the middle of Trump's speech there, right? You're having the whole big conversation there, the joint address, and this is when he decided he's going to take his cane and scream at Trump, and then Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, threw him out. Because that's what you're supposed to do. Not only are you supposed to throw him out of the room, you should throw him out of the House. Well, Democrats didn't do that when what's her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert were screaming at Biden. You're right. That's the Democrats' problem. What do you want from me? Why? If you're so upset by that, then you should be totally fine with this, right? Republicans finally learning there's a way to fight, and one must fight with aggressiveness and aplomb. Representative Al Green isn't a good guy, isn't a smart guy, isn't a valuable guy, nor a worthy guy. As a matter of fact, I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to like about the man. What could anybody possibly like about him? The screaming, the yelling, the absolute insanity of his position, thinking he's a tough guy. There ain't nothing tough about Al Green. And I'm not talking about the cool Al Green. I'm so in love with you. That's all the singing I do. Tony Katz today. What's going on? That's actually my wedding song. True story. Oh, I got the spot for Al Green. Just not this Al Green. As a matter of fact, he should have to change his name. We already have a Mr. Green. You could be Mr. Pink. But he's there and he's going to interrupt the proceedings, and he got thrown out. And this is the censure vote. The House of Representatives moves to censure Al Green. So what do Democrats do? They gather in the well, or are they right on the floor of the House, and they sing. They sing as Al Green.
By its adoption of House Resolution 189, the House has resolved that Representative Al Green be censured, that Representative Al Green forthwith present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker.
They started singing. They started singing, "We shall overcome." Good Lord. If Democrats don't understand why they don't win elections, thinking that Al Green is a martyr, treating Al Green as a martyr, that's one of the key reasons. Because he's not a martyr. Because he's not a good guy. Because he doesn't provide any value. And most importantly, this is not how you fight. This is how you flail. The censure is good. Now, I would remove him from all committees. And yes, I absolutely, without question, would have thrown him out of the House. That would have been me. That would have been my pick. And you say to me, well, what about Marjorie Taylor Greene? What about Joe Biden? Let's not forget that when they were yelling at Biden, I think it was the second year. Was it the first year? Was it the second year? That's when they had the back and forth, and Biden came out the better for it. Everyone said, oh, Biden's back. Look at how he was able to handle this. Look at how he was able to parry. Look at how he was able to get them to admit they weren't going to touch Medicare. And then he tried it year 3, and he tried it year 4. Don't remember. And it failed miserably because he couldn't go back to the well because he simply wasn't capable of doing anything. If Democrats wanted to censure them, they would have. They had already done enough to Marjorie Taylor Greene in the past. No, I like this tremendously because no Democrat should be okay with what happened here. None. And they shouldn't be happy because of how he made you look. Picture what has happened here. He is censured, And Democrats are singing "We Shall Overcome" like the silliest of silly people, because they are silly people. We understand this. They're the silliest of silly people. They are an absolute embarrassment. But why did you not make the move to stand with him when this was all happening? Why didn't you make the move to stand with Al Green when he was there screaming at Trump and then got escorted out of the room? Why now? Isn't now like not the time to make that happen? Isn't now just a little bit late?
A bit late for that.
You should have walked out with him if you were going to stand strong. Now instead you wait till a couple days later. And this
Present himself in the well of the House of Representatives for the pronouncement of censure, and that Representative Al Green be censured with public reading of this resolution by the Speaker. The House had come to order. The House had come to order. What's it?
How is it not just flat out embarrassing? So weak. So disconnected from where the American people are. They're not moved by this. They don't think that you're strong. They don't think that you're fighting something. 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. Why won't the Democratic Party just accept the fact that this is the will of the American people and they should be engaged on policy where they can actually be a part of it, and they should put forth policy where they disagree? This activism nonsense is nonsense, but this is all they know. Remember, they can't learn. And everything they were taught says when you stand up like this, that's really fighting. It's not really fighting, and it sure as bloody heck isn't really winning, and you guys are never going to win an election again, which is fine by me. I'm not going to lose any sleep over the idea that you're not going to win elections. That's your problem. But you somehow think you're connecting. You somehow think you're doing something right. It's like this on MSNBC. There was this conversation this guy was having about Doge. And in this conversation, man, he hits the basics yesterday.
Are people who are charged with trying to find savings. So yes, it's an attack on government, but it's also an attack on this government. What I mean by that is it's an attack on this government that used to be headed by a black man. It's an attack on this government that almost elected a black woman to the highest office in the land. It's an attack on a government that has been more welcoming and more supportive of people who have come to this country in search for a better life.
Is that supposed to move anyone? We can't root out waste because it's an attack on a... There's no keeping up. There's no keeping up. What is, I think, fascinating, when I say I think I know to be fascinating, is how little it is connecting. A reminder that this is what they do. But this is not what connects with Americans. Not in the slightest. Now, Hakeem Jeffries wants to point out that Trump only wins in the public opinion.
This flood the zone strategy, I understand clearly. The flood the zone strategy is designed to disorient people. I ain't going to be disoriented. I'm not going to be disoriented by it all. We have to push back with righteous indignation. But this whole flood the zone strategy is designed to create the appearance of inevitability. The notion that Donald Trump is unstoppable. He ain't unstoppable. Not a single bill connected to Trump's Project 2025 agenda has passed the House because there's unified Democratic opposition.
The purpose of the first 100 days, and Trump understood this, was to indeed flood the zone. 1,000% flood the zone. Put everything out there and disorient. And of course, the Democratic Party is disoriented. Look at how they respond. They are lost. They're singing like it matters. Democrats aren't able to fight Trump. Their reliance on the courts is standard operating procedure, and the courts have had some success in telling the duly elected president of the United States that he can't do duly elected things. The disorientation, did you see the video of the members of Congress, Democrat women, pretending that they were like part of a game of Street Fighter? They're sitting there and they're kind of bouncing a little up and down like they're a character that you could pick. Choose your fighter. I'm going to get more into this. It might have been a good idea on paper. Then you saw the reality. Now, this is what you've got. Don't tell us you're not disoriented, Hakeem Jeffries. This is something you're telling to your party, but this isn't what America sees. America sees you lost. And it goes to yet another weirdo argument being made. Trump declared that he has a mandate like has not been seen in many decades. This is a comment I got on the socials. He won the popular vote by 1.48%. Biden won it by 4.45. Obama won the popular vote by 7.27. You're making an argument that only exists for people who come to your house for a holiday meal. Trump says he's got a mandate all the time. Trump says he's the best all the time. This is what you're focused on. You know what we're focused on? The fact that illegal immigrants are being sent to their home country, that we're creating legislation that doesn't allow it to take place, that just Trump's mere presence, which is stunning but true, has brought border crossings from 8,000 plus a day to 8,000 plus in a month. And you're focused on who got larger vote totals? No one cares, boo-boo. That's called being disoriented. You're not focused on the things that move Americans at all. You weren't even willing to stand up for Al Green in the moment. Only a couple days later, when you could pass out the song sheets. You understand by now, political left, that you can't win an election because you can't learn. If you could, oh my gosh, could you be formidable? But you can't, and you won't. Instead, you sing. And you send Hakeem Jeffries out there to say, I won't be distracted. Sure. No one cares if you're distracted or not. The Trump administration should keep flooding the zone for the first 100 days and the next 100 days after that, and after that, and after that. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. guys, welcome back. Forgive me, I was having a little snack in between the show. So there it is right there. Yeah, it goes along with the same line of well, you know, Trump, Elon Musk is unpopular, and who knows how long Trump will put up with that. I don't know if Elon Musk is popular or not. What is this conversation? It sounds very much like something you want to put into the sphere as opposed to something anybody should be paying attention to. Why would I believe you about whether or not you think Elon Musk is popular? It doesn't matter. Do you think it matters if you sing after Al Green gets censured? Just makes you look silly. You're not a Democratic Party that could take on Putin. You're not a Democratic Party that could actually fight and win. You'd be destroyed by China. You couldn't even solve a border problem. Couldn't solve anything. But sing-alongs, you showed us. You showed us. But I mean, I appreciate comments here, but I wish the comments, you know, from the people who want to be trolling had more value. But if this is what you're going to put out, I'm going to notice it. I'm going to very politely explain why it doesn't matter. I'm not going to apologize for that in the slightest. All right, let's get back to a radio show. Anybody else having allergies? It's just me. Not affecting the voice, thank goodness, but still, feel it. Feel the allergies. As we discussed a little earlier, 70,000 jobs. That's what the VA is planning to cut. 70,000 jobs. I don't see what the problem is, and I would almost dare someone to try and explain it to me. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. Tony Katz, that's the name of the show. Or that's me, actually, Tony Katz Today. That's the name of the show. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. You can leave a comment there on the Twittix at Tony Katz. Explain this. What's the problem? People are outraged by these cuts. There are 470,000 people working in the Department of Veterans Affairs. And Doug Collins wants to cut it to 398,000 people. They would still hire for mission-critical roles, according to the reporting at the Wall Street Journal, and it doesn't affect health care benefits for veterans or beneficiaries. What's the issue? Well, the issue is that these people don't care if the institution provides value. What they care is that they have the institution. We have discussed this before. I think it's worth repeating. We take a look at the institutions and we say, what is the value they provide we the people? Because that's the proper thing to do. They look at the institution and say no one is allowed to touch the institution. The institution is all that matters. And maintaining the institution is our job. Fully, completely, totally, and without question. They do not look to the institution to say, this is the value it provides. Rather, they look to the institution to say, thank goodness we've got all these federal workers employed. I was on Newsmax yesterday discussing this subject.
Writer And Tony Katz, host of Tony Katz Today. Well, Tony, if they're so qualified and so credentialed, they should have no problem getting another job, right?
They shouldn't have to get another job, Carl, and I don't know why you're such a hater. It is very obvious that you're supposed to have a job for life when you work for the government. You see, protecting government workers is the job of the elected official. Sure, you in the private sector may have your business burned down during a riot in Minneapolis or in Seattle because of George Floyd or any other purpose. You know, those things just happen. Nancy Pelosi told us people are going to do what they do. But when the government worker is effective, Carl, and you sit there and you mock it, I promised myself I wouldn't get upset. Oh, I apologize. It is embarrassing to. This is who they are. This is what they believe. And you're watching it happen. You're not alone in noticing the madness, whether we're talking about the protection of the government worker above all things, or singing when Al Green gets censured, which was rightfully deserved. None of it involves what's best for the American people. None of it. This is the connective tissue. I'm Tony Katz. Yeah, I don't know why it shows up like that. There we go. Much better. Much, much, much better. Yeah, if you want to troll now in the comments, you're more than welcome to. But I'm certainly done here. I don't need to get back to that. I still have a half a cigar to go, and then I've got another one after that. I have other things going on. Nope, not going to be a part of the thing. Since we here so honestly discuss issues, whether it be with tariffs or the economy, and we do it with everybody, I just am not going to get lectured. Nah. God, I wish you were better at this. I wish the trolls were better at this, but neither here nor there. Deborah saying, I'd rather be sent back to my homeland and families than be locked in prison in the country I broke into. They're lucky that's not the case. You're talking about people who are being deported. Interesting. Some people might see it differently. We don't know exactly how bad things are from where they came from. I don't deny that it could be bad. What I reject is the idea that somehow I have to deal with their reality as opposed to them dealing with their reality. And then they come to the United States and make demands. They make demands of you, me, and we. That is the issue. That's what is so ugly. There's no attempt, there's no desire to be a part of the nation. Certainly, if there was, you would think that people would come in legally, but they come in illegally and then make demands. That's the part that's just flat out nutty. Nutty. If not just wholly deranged, that you can come to the country and make demands. That's the crazy. All right, I'm going to get to this story. I know I didn't get to it much yesterday. And there it is. You know exactly where I'm going, don't you? But there were reasons. There were other things I wanted to hit. I knew that this was going to be covered, and I wanted a little more time in maybe covering it better. Is how I would say it. So let me get to two things I have here on this subject. Now, I had heard that Rachel Maddow had a mouthful of things to say about Trump and this kid, JD. I'm sorry, DJ. JD, he's the vice president. And DJ. It's funny because it happened. So, she was like disgusted by what she saw the night of Trump's speech and this DJ being made a honorary Secret Service member. And now Dad has chimed in. I don't mean to continue down a road, but I think it's important. Very, very important. So we'll get to that. We're coming back to the show. Glad you're here. I made mention earlier that the United States is going to pause intelligence sharing with Ukraine. I think that this is a tremendous mistake and a horrific, terrible mistake. In no way of thinking should you want Ukraine not to have access to information that can help them survive. Tony Katz today. So good to be with you. Find everything over at TonyKatz.com. I cannot say it enough that we should absolutely recognize that there is a difference, a large-scale difference between the actions of Volodymyr Zelensky and the needs of the people there in Ukraine. And we should not be people who try and make them suffer. That is a crazy idea. Not a fan, guys. Not a fan. In New York, a detective is being questioned because she was doing pole dancing. I didn't know that was a crime. She is part of the Special Victims Unit, raising eyebrows after appearing in a raunchy pole dancing video that has gone viral. Her name is Melissa Mercado, 7-year veteran of the force. I'm going to try and explain this the best way that I can. She's, I guess, for some people, attractive. And she must understand that after 7 years of being a cop, she'd make that much money in one day on OnlyFans. What is she supposed to do? Now, this is really a conversation about a society that is desperate to give all their money to the chick on OnlyFans. Trust me when I say, if I could create an OnlyFans account, yup. You know, I've had an idea for OnlyFans for well over a year now. And so here is my OnlyFans page. I'm so glad that you asked. I know you want to hear all about it. And let me tell you, if I did an OnlyFans page,
you're gonna be popular.
That's the truth. That is the absolute truth. So here is my OnlyFans page. Here is what I would do. The camera would come on, right? The lights would come up. There would be a leather chair, table next to it, on it an ashtray. There'd be a lighter, a cutter, and a drink. I would come into frame. I, Tony Katz, your host. Hello. In a suit, fine, well-polished shoes, ticket on my wrist, as they would say. But the watch, ooh, I have wait till you see what I've got coming. Oh, it's going to be so good. And then I would sit down in the chair, not even recognizing the camera. No, the camera is just there. And I would pull out a cigar, a fine cigar. I would cut the cigar. I would light the cigar. And for the next 90 plus minutes, I would smoke the cigar. And when I was done, I would get up from the chair and I would walk out of frame, $49.95 a month. Who's in? I am your cigar smoking Yule log friend. That's all I am. I just sit there and smoke a cigar with you. That's my OnlyFans. Tell me I'm wrong. Of course it's not going to work. But look at all the stuff that does work. It's unbelievable. And so this detective very clearly, I would argue, is making the claim that there's no point in spending my life being a cop. When I look like this, I can maybe go in another direction. Maybe it's not that at all. There was a chance to do a video, and she's like, you know what? That'd be fun. I'd like to explore this side of myself, and she did it. Is that a reason? Should she be fired? Do you get fired for that? Because if you get fired for that and not for being Nicole Wallace, I don't understand. The Nicole Wallace story you may have heard by now. What happened was that this kid, DJ, 13, he's had multiple brain surgeries for cancer. And in one conversation, he's like, I've had 13 surgeries. I've had like 13 different personalities. And you hear him and he talks with this pretty deep voice and he kind of talks like an adult. And hey, he's been through things that you and I are never going to understand and what affects the mind and everything else. This is what I know just from watching. Seems like his dad, decent guy who loves his kid, had an opportunity to take his kid to the White House to be part of the joint address, saw his kid be honored and get to be who wants to be a cop, and he wears the police uniform, and had a chance for his kid to become an honorary Secret Service agent, and he's holding up his kid to the world like any dad would. Is it the use of a human prop? I would argue anybody who's in the gallery who gets pointed out is a prop in that situation. But people forget that Trump did this not as a one-off, but to engage the conversation about what's happening to children and how he got cancer and it was environmental and we need to do more and we need to stop this and we need to fight this and we need to get, Bobby on this, meaning Robert F. Kennedy Jr. And that people forget that that's what he was talking about. So MSNBC decided that they should have something to say about this. And you've seen this already. Nicole Wallace, here's what she had to say.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ. And I hope he's alive for another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives and the life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump's supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
There's just no way to think that she is in any way, shape, or form decent. It's simply impossible. This cop dancing in her off hours might lose her job, and Nicole Wallace gets to continue to be on television. Well, it seems that Rachel Maddow has gotten into this. She called the tribute disgusting, accusing Trump of making a, quote, spectacle out of praising a young man who's thus far survived pediatric cancer. This kid's dad is named Theodis, Theodis. I believe I pronounce it Theodis, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right. And he states, this lady didn't even serve time in the military. I was on the USS Kitty Hawk. He was a machinist. She does not need to put her bad energy on us. She needs to, quote, shut her mouth if she has nothing nice to say. Great. The people over there at MSNBC believe that the things that they say should just be able to be said. And somehow a response to this is wrong. I think that Dad should go much further. I think he should be much more aggressive. I think he should be unrelenting in speaking honestly about the ridiculousness of Rachel Maddow's commentary. Anytime somebody is looked to in the gallery, it's a prop. Whether it's the First Lady or anyone else, it's a prop. I concede the point. Now tell me how you win the argument intellectually by saying, hey, what a great moment for this 13-year-old. I hope he doesn't kill himself. What are you doing? What possibly are you doing? How possibly could you think this is good for you? That it could make sense? That it could provide value? You can't. What you do is you believe yourself to be so important and you believe your voice to matter so deeply and greatly that you say things without saying, I wonder how this is going to be taken. I wonder if this is really the nicest thing to say. I wonder if this makes sense. But when you believe that everything you say is good, and since you've never been reprimanded for anything you say, you come up with this. You come up with this. I have no idea what it's like to sit there while my son goes through 13 surgeries. All I know is when my kid didn't make the team, I wanted to cry. I did it in front of them, but I felt awful in a way that a parent can understand because you want good things for your kids and you feel just devastated for them when they don't make it. That was making the team, and 3 days later, they were not thinking about it again. This is brain surgery after brain surgery, after brain surgery, after brain surgery, after brain surgery. And by the way, that was only 5. I have 8 more to go. He wants to have his kid be celebrated in front of the whole country and have a memory. Fine by me. He wants to hold his kid up like it's the Lion King. Fine by me. And if Trump wants to say, hey, you're an honorary Secret Service agent, fine by me. Fine by every rational, normal person. We're not dealing with rational, normal people. We're not even engaged in things where one could honestly disagree. Where, hey, here's a 13-year-old, let's make it the story. And for that commentary from Nicole Wallace, no one's gone at MSNBC is going to discuss her losing her job. But the quasi-hot cop for doing a pole dancing video in her off hours, she might lose her job. I don't know. Maybe if Nicole Wallace pole danced, she'd actually have viewers. That's just cold. That's rude. But it might be better than her commentaries. That's honest. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Let's get to the comments. I saw a bunch of things. Sarah wants me to call my OnlyFans page Big Sticks. I think I'm just gonna leave that there. Producer Landon, I don't think I have any comment for that whatsoever. I'm just gonna move on. Producer Landon right there. I would just like to ask Tony, who specifically are the people who only care about the institution? My sister works for the VA, is married to a veteran, and she cares deeply about veterans. Oh, I don't say no. And tell her thanks for the hard work. Oh, no. Don't confuse the two issues, please. Absolutely, that's true. There are people who work all over the VA who are very committed to the VA. The question is, do you need 470,000 people to run it, or can you do it with 398,000? And if you can, isn't it your responsibility to remove the people that you don't need in those jobs so you can be more efficient? Cost the American people less because it is the taxpayer dollar? The people who care about the institution seem to be those who are elected officials who are only focused on the idea of protecting the government worker and not asking the question of if the government worker is necessary to the job at hand. No one is guaranteed a job. And I don't question whether your sister is somebody who is committed. Not at all. Not in the slightest. That'd be a rude thing to do. But no one is guaranteed a job. And I am not about to sit here and make a claim that they are. If you want to cut 70,000 jobs, 80,000 jobs from Veterans Affairs, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. And to be opposed to it is to say that the institution as is more important than the institution's function of serving the people in question. That is the issue. Oh, and I will defend that all day long. The people screaming that you can't fire these people don't have an argument. They don't have anything close to an argument. Just for clarity's sake, it's funny, Landon. I sent you that thing, and now I can't find it. Yeah, like I cannot find it on my side. That is super weird. Can you send it back to me? The rundown. Super weird. Don't know why it just cut out like that. Thank you. There it is. I'll get into more conversation about the threat that Trump made to Hamas, which I have zero problem with. Tony Katz today. Everybody who wants to look at the tariffs and say, this is great, we're really teaching these other countries a lesson. Make sure you understand that the stagflation fears are real. You know, the market was down today. The pre-market was down 400. There was a moment where the Dow today was down 600. The NASDAQ was down over 400. This is all very, very real. In the conversation of reciprocal tariffs, if they tariff us, we tariff them, one could see it. One could accept it. A blanket 25% on Mexico and on Canada, it makes things go up and it causes real concern. Now, the White House is pausing tariffs on some Mexican imports until April 2nd. That deal was worked out. The objective here is to stop the flow of fentanyl. The objective here is a couple other things having to do with the drug trade, with who's coming over the border into our country. I don't mind that you want to solve these things. Blanket tariffs cause problems. blanket tariffs can lead to levels of stagflation. The inflation is already high, not because of this, but because of the money Biden put into the system and kept putting into the system and never took out of the system. Inflation is too much cash and not enough stuff. That's what it is. The stagflation comes from not being able to bring any balance because of other forces. Now, it may not be the perfect economic definition, but it does explain how the tariffs will keep prices high. It's a tax. It is what it is. It can't be explained away except in its honesty. So that's the concern. And that does need to be President Trump's concern, because the economy is a key motivator into why he was elected. And while the American people have some level of grace, that will fall away quickly. Make things cheaper, or nothing is forgiven, or nothing is forgotten, and nothing else will matter. Keep it here. This is Tony Katz today. All right, I think what we're going to do is usually I stop at this point, but I think we're going to go a little longer. I think we're going to go a little longer here. I've got some more stuff to get to about election integrity, about the UK backdoor. Trust me, I'm not being dirty when I say that. So I want to get to that. I want to get to that with you. I'm glad you're here. Make sure you head over to the Twitter, X, and to Tony Katz, and to YouTube. Find Tony Katz, subscribe, like, download, do all the things, follow, whatever it is they ask you to do. Give up your firstborn, blood test, whatever. Just make it happen. I greatly appreciate the follows over there. Keep it here, and we will be right back. Guys, welcome back. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. Forgive me for sending out a text. Good to be with you. Let's get everything set up and good to go. Glad everybody's here. Glad everyone is enjoying. Be sure to follow all the things that are going on. Find me everywhere at Tony Katz. I'd appreciate that. This presser with Chip Roy and Congressman Marlin Stutzman, interesting because it's about voting and voter integrity. And there's a story about a plan to bring legislation on the subject. Amongst all the things being discussed in these first 100 days, there's a conversation about elections, which I'm very happy to see. And I had caught a post there on the Twittix about Congressman Pete Sessions and how Pete Sessions is working on legislation regarding voter security, putting an end to universal mail-in voting and electronic voting machines, shortening the early voting period to just 3 days. Look, I will be clear. I don't believe in early voting at all. And if you want to argue that that is voter suppression to not want early voting, do your worst. Tony Katz today, 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. Reach in, reach out, call in, do all the things. I guess reach in is how you reach out and you call in. Because I think if you just say reach in, that might be seen as weird. Maybe I shouldn't say things like that. But the idea that you have to have early voting, no, you don't. We have an election day. And that's when you vote, and that's all there is to it. It's super simple, and super easy, and you show up and you vote. Now, I think election day should be a 24-hour period. I think election day could even be a 48-hour period. But this is when everybody votes. This is when we do it. Early voting allows for the opportunity of fraud. Mail-in voting in this universal way, willy-nilly, here you go, creates the opportunity for fraud. Note that I did not say it does create fraud, but it does create the opportunity. People who are unwilling to admit this are people who are not worthy of your time or attention. They're unserious people. Of course it creates the opportunity. Last time we had mail-in voting, willy-nilly mail-in voting, 81 million votes for Joe Biden. Stop it. Could we not be those? Could we be better people? Come on. It's all these years later. We're friends. Let's just admit it. 81 million votes. That's hilarious. That is just something else. I don't mind these changes, but certainly we should be having a conversation about having an ID and that you have to have an ID to vote. And we should be having a conversation about whether or not the electronic voting machines, which I'm not opposed to as an idea, do they actually create issues? Should this all be by paper? So Congressman Chip Roy and Congressman Marlin Stutzman are there on the steps of the Capitol discussing this.
The country. We can believe in the Constitution, the rule of law. More importantly, the people who want to change their community, the people who want to run for elections, they can know that if they do that hard work and they get the votes out there, it'll be trusted rather than corrupt individuals that are denying people the ability to go win elections. And that's why these.
Now, before anything, I should tell my producer Landon, it's Chip Roy of Texas. So all the fingers on the dump button, not just some. Not as a matter of fact, put your foot on it as well, because you never know. You never know.
These people are here. That's why they came here from Michigan. I say it's cold. You guys are like, this is balmy. This is warm, right? But look, God bless you all. Thank you, Marlon, for your work. God bless you. Thank you, Joel.
Absolutely. Thank you, Congressman Roy. And, as we all know, that we are unique creations by God. We each have a voice, but we also have a vote, and we need to make sure that that vote is protected for those who are legally have the right to vote, and making sure that no one on any political side of the aisle would ever take advantage of our political process, and make sure that we respect every person's right to vote. And so with that, I want to introduce a colleague from Oklahoma, Josh Bresnahan, great friend, and thank you for being here, Josh.
We'll get to Josh in a second. Did anything Congressman Stutzman say strike anybody as unreasonable? We all as citizens have the right to vote, those of us who can lawfully vote, and we should never allow an opportunity for our vote to be misrepresented. What possibly is the disagreement there? I bring this up because the argument that gets made about voter suppression and having an ID is such a terrible idea. It's not a terrible idea. It's the only smart idea there is. An ID for cold medicine is not as important as an ID to vote, because the vote can hurt a lot more people than maybe something wrong I do with the cold medicine. It's true. It's factual. It is a maddening proposition to think that somehow it's wrong. But what did Marlon Stutzman say? Except we should just be normal people and make sure that the vote is counted the way it's supposed to be counted. Now we'll get back to this.
I'm going to have to help Marlon. My last name is horrible. It's Burkeen. Burkeen. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Look, I am so grateful to Chip Roy, his leadership on this. There is misinformation that you need to know. Every American needs to know. In 1993, we had a change of law called the Motor Voter Act. And what happened under Bill Clinton is he started directing welfare agencies to deviate from their mission to start enrolling people to vote. What they also did was they put information, instructions as addressed by Congress, that you found by 2013 in Arizona versus the United States. They cited that 1993 change of law as the reason why we should only have people assert that they're U.S. citizens, not show proof that you're that you are a United States citizen. That's what we're talking about. And when North Carolina and Virginia are finding 1,400 people on their rolls that are not citizens of the United States, think about just for a moment. If a 13-year-old walks in your state into a convenience store and wants to purchase whiskey, and he looks at them and says, I contend, I am 21. And the person behind the counter says, okay, then prove it. And you had a state law that said that you couldn't prove it. That's what Chip Roy's legislation does.
Again, argue it. It can't be argued. It's so rational and reasonable. And rational and reasonable is where we need to be. So here's a comment that was on the live stream. I'm a fireman. We work 24-hour shifts. Therefore, I believe we should have early voting, but only the weekend before Election Day. Or I like your idea of 48-hour voting. Well, first of all, thanks. I appreciate that. Secondly, thanks for the work that you do. And third, you'll notice that I have never once said we shouldn't have absentee voting. Absentee voting is important, but you are the one who requests the absentee ballot. That is different than mail-in voting, where all of a sudden, here's all these ballots. Fill out what you want. That's the difference. You are not getting from me an argument against the very idea of absentee ballots. Take a look at all the service members overseas. I want them to have a vote. I'm desirous of them having a vote. We just need to have a better handle on these things and not allow for people who shouldn't be voting to vote. And this is a very interesting point. You can assert you're an American citizen, or you can assert you're a citizen of that state, but you don't have to prove it. What a weird thing to think is normal or should be normalized. Weird indeed. This isn't the sexy stuff. I agree. This isn't Ukraine or Israel. This isn't the economy or the border. This isn't Trump just bashing the living crap out of Pocahontas or whoever he's making fun of today. Oh, God, I hate the nicknames with everything in me, but she lied about being Native American for social advancement. She deserves every bit of derision she gets, and she created the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, that bit of communist nonsense. She deserves to be shamed on the hour. Does Elizabeth Warren, the senator from Massachusetts, and shame on Massachusetts. This is not sexy, if you will, but it is important. And this is the kind of thing that you bet is going to get a lot of screaming and yelling and screams of voter suppression and voter intimidation. In the same way, one must secure the border regardless of whether the left calls you a xenophobe or not. And who cares? Same rules apply. Doesn't matter what they say. Doesn't matter what they sue. You keep going. You keep going and you don't stop. And what I like about this conversation, although we could have maybe disagreements about the specifics within the legislation, is that this is an example maybe of Republicans having learned the most valuable lesson from the Democrats. The Democrats come out of the gate firing everywhere. They're firing every gun. They're firing in every direction, up, down, left, right, at themselves. It doesn't matter. They put it all out there. And if they get a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, they're good. Because you know what they're going to do next time? They're going to come out firing with everything in them, in the sky and in the ground and at themselves and at the this, the boom, ba-ding, ba-doom, ba-doom, ba-doom. And they're going to get a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. This can be actualized or visualized. Is actualized? Visualized. I'll go with visualized. With the idea of the moving of the goalposts. Some would like to argue that we live in a center-right nation, and maybe the election of Donald Trump has now proven this as the pendulum swings back. But when you take a look at where the left has gone over the last 20 years, since Barack Obama, the left was, okay, here was the right, and here was the left, and here was the middle, right, left, middle, right, left, middle. Well, what happens is the right is still over here. The left moves further to the left, and therefore the center, to be a center, gets shifted to the middle of where the left now moved to further left, and the right always was that same spot. So now that right seems much further away. So that's the far right. No, you got to be over here with the center here, and that's okay. We would call that the moderate Republican, or we would call it the rhino, or whatever it is. But then the left moves even further, and the center moves to the center, and the right is now further away because the left is further away when the right hasn't actually changed. Now, there's no doubt that this Republican Party is different than the Republican Party of 10 years ago. Of that, there is no question. But the moving of the goalpost, the moving of the field, and changing where the center is where the real manipulation is at politically. So this left is going to tell you that everything being discussed here that you just heard, which is as rational as the day is long, they're going to tell you is voter suppression. And you're trying to keep black people from voting. You want me to discuss, as we're looking at this video, all of the people behind Congressman Stutzman here who are black? All of them. All of them. Because the left does what it does. It will, of course, decide it's a racial issue as opposed to an issue of protecting the election for every citizen. These are exactly the kinds of things that you have to learn from the political left. And as we see in this Trump administration, come out firing on all cylinders in all the places. And we should be doing this. And we should be engaging in changes to the election now, this term of the House, before the midterms. And I feel good about the midterms right now. But in everything, even with the border, which I consider the biggest story in America, maybe this is bigger. And I'm glad it's being discussed. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Yvette in the comments. Sorry, I don't think anybody's going to call your WhatsApp. And since I do not speak Spanish, I'm not sure what's being said here. But I wouldn't know if I could trust it or not because it's social media. Thank you. Thank you very much. Love the comments, by the way. Really do appreciate them in a big way. I haven't been able to check on Twitter. I know there have been comments. Moscow Marjorie and her buddy Bobert are like a pair of chimpanzees. My apologies to all chimpanzees who have greater intelligence. That's from William with no picture, no icon on his Twitter profile. He's a treat. He is a treat and a half. People are special. Just going through some comments. Right here. And people are pretty angry. Yeah, that is not that is not necessary. You don't have to be so angry. Not helpful. Let's get back to it right here. Okay. Guys, we're going to do this together. I have not heard this yet. It's never a good idea to play something on radio that you haven't already heard and vetted, but honestly, screw it. And if they fire me, whatever. Yeah. Live once, people. Tony Katz today. Good to be with you. You guys know by now Representative Jasmine Crockett of Texas, who fancies herself a fighter and a hero and the toughest. And she's taking on Trump, this one and that one. And this was her the other day.
This is not what we should be doing. I don't even know why we fighting with Greenland. Why we fighting with Greenland? We fighting with Canada. We fighting with Mexico. Yet we in love with Putin. What is happening? Like, this is not America. This is a terrible nightmare. Somebody slap me and wake me the up because I'm ready to get on with it.
That's the Congresswoman from Texas, by the way. Well, here's this is from one of my video services. Unearthed video shows Jasmine Crockett talking with a much different accent than the one she has now in Congress. I'm like, all right, I'm curious. Let's listen.
Absolutely. First of all, it's good to see you in the new year. You know, no one could have told me that when I went down to Austin, now it looks like a little bit over a year ago, that I would be running for Congress. It's just not what my plan was. But what I've always decided is that I would step up when there was a need. Listen, he up there, he's spewing all kinds of nonsense and bullshit. Let me just be real.
Oh, dang it. That's why I told you, finger on the dump button. Yeah, you got it. Oh, I knew it. I knew she was going to do it. This is not actually surprising. The way she talks changes. I would argue that she simply put on the act for one while engaging in another conversation for another. I believe the terminology they go with is code switching. I believe that's how they describe it when you change the way you talk from one group to another group. That's not new. I am not shocked by this. What I will tell you is that if your argument is she is engaging the way she is now to build up some level of credibility, the answer is I would agree. She sees that being a member of Congress is one thing, but being a star is better. And so she has to do more. She has to push harder. She has to be more outrageous. That way she's really going to connect with the people. That has to be the answer. If that isn't the answer, then there is no answer. If that isn't the answer, then I don't know what I'm supposed to bring to this, except this is like standard operating procedure, it would seem to me. I can tell you that I do not change the way I speak, regardless of the crowd I'm in front of. Kids, adults, Jews, Christians, Muslims, men, women, I do what I do. I am not a Kamala Harris, and I am not a Hillary Clinton, and I am not a Jasmine Crockett changing things because I think it'll get me some authenticity points. But is anybody surprised that she would be the kind of woman who is? Why would anybody be surprised? Why would anybody be shocked, stunned, and out? She has shown you what she's about. And she really wants to be the voice of the squad. She really wants to be somebody with the power. You think the Democratic Party can stop her? You think Hakeem Jeffries can kind of keep her at bay? Nah. Let her do what she does. Let's see how it affects the electorate. Her voters, her district might still vote for her for all I know. But if you think that her commentaries don't have an effect on the national side, that's just silly. I'm Tony Katz. All right, man. I will be with you in a second, Landon. Guys, this is where I leave you. I got to bring an end to an exciting broadcast day. I appreciate you guys being here. I really, really do. I think we're back tomorrow. I think we're getting pretty good with the streaming, and I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you tell your friends, and I hope we can build it out more and more. But I appreciate your help. I appreciate that you're a part of this, and I appreciate the comments, all of them. Even though I don't get to them, I appreciate that you're in there, and I will try and respond as often as I can. Really do appreciate it. Find everything at TonyKatz.com. Tony Katz on X, Tony Katz there on YouTube, on Rumble, Tony Katz Radio on Facebook. You're appreciated, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Take care, guys.